All right, everyone. Yesterday was the big first day of the impeachment hearings against Donald Trump with Ambassador Taylor and a few other morons sitting there answering questions. The problem is that it was so massively boring that most people, I have a feeling, tuned out very early, which means that at some point, beyond Schiff and Nunes and these people giving their opening 40 friggin' minute long, terribly boring statements, most of the country zonked out, leaving them only to analyze from what other people said. I more or less had to watch through it. I didn't watch every minute of it, sometimes you have to do other things like eat, go to the bathroom, exist, take care of the existential angst of having to deal with that level of boringness. It's like, imagine, for those of you that didn't watch it, imagine like a 5 or 6 hour long lecture on polynomials, the history of arithmetic or something. Most people, it just doesn't get them jumping. The only people that were truly excited were the people when they got a chance to question these individuals that were giving testimony. The problem with the testimony itself is this whole entire proceeding is a complete farce. This is day one. What do you know about presentations? Multi-day, multi-hour, whatever. The most important stuff, if you're strategically planning it all, you give a brief at the very beginning when people are energized, they've just sat down to hear you speak. That's when you give them the most important gist of things. After the second minute, people start clocking out. Like, there's another 30 seconds of me speaking here before half of you are just basically listening to it as background noise. I understand this. That's why I rant, and that's why I summarize at the end, because the end, the last few minutes, the last half hour of testimony or something, then people pay attention a little bit more as well, because they're anticipating the end. The problem with the Democrats is this was a total. The LA Times is calling this a dud for the Democrats. That's damning. This is the main day of shit you're doing. The first day and the final day of the hearings are the only ones of great import. Everything between in the middle is filler. It's going to be a bunch of second-tier people answering questions and second-tier representatives asking questions and people that are less dynamic, less energetic speaking. Well, my goodness, how much less energetic can you get? Basically, half of the testimony in day one boiled down to, it was my feeling that Trump said this. It was my belief based on what I had been told. The ambassador that was giving testimony, most of what he's even talking about is technically hearsay. It's secondhand information. But we don't even know who the whistleblower is, and Schiff certainly isn't going to, well, we do, but we're not allowed to name him on certain social media sites where this video will be present. On BitChute, of course, you know the name. You can probably put it in the comments. I think YouTube might scrub it there. I'm not 100% sure. Maybe I'll pin a comment if somebody names him. Maybe if you switch out the I's for little case L's and vice versa, uppercase I for lowercase L, maybe the filter won't catch it. Try that, by the way. Maybe you can even do that in like video titles and stuff. Anyway, long story short, we don't know who the main leaker, or whatever you want to term him is, the main traitor involved in this whole deal. We don't know who that is. There's no cross-examination of that going to happen. The ambassador, the star witness, literally can't even give his own appraisal of the situation. These people had to literally sidestep the Democrats that dragged him in there saying, oh, look, you're our best friend in the world. Like, you're such a great guy. We're going to, enable you to help take down evil Drumpfler. What began to be apparent to me, I'm going to pull an Ambassador Taylor here. I felt it to be the case that the primary structure of the impeachment inquiry here, and they'll definitely have an impeachment vote. They probably will impeach Trump on this, and it'll be a partisan farce, and most people will see through it. This is damning, by the way. This is how they lose 2020. Here's the thing. It seemed like the entire thing boiled down to Trump didn't act the way we expected him to act as a president. He didn't act like Obama did. Therefore, we decided to conspire behind his back to undermine foreign policy. By the way, yeah, it's totally normal for there to be unstated policies and negotiations sort of, off the record in the diplomatic fashion between world leaders. Yeah, all this is normal, but this time it was a problem. Well, that doesn't make sense. Literally, the witnesses were normalizing Trump's behavior while chastising it in some cases. That's not damning at all to the prosecution here. That's not damning at all to the Dems. Nunes and others coming out and absolutely pounding these people got him to say, well, essentially, the only thing that you can give us is your feelings, your opinions. Well, that doesn't count. If it were a normal court proceeding, all of this would be thrown out. Day one would be 99% excoriated from the record entirely if this were an actual legal proceeding in a judiciary situation. The fact is, though, this is what the impeachment inquiry is. It is a partisan hatchet by a political party that knows that no current candidate in the field that it's fielding against Donald Trump can beat him. Since they know that, they have no choice but to default to Plan 2, rambling about his taxes and about Ukraine. If they have to throw Joe Biden under the bus, which they very likely will have to do during the course of these proceedings, so be it, because they got Elizabeth Warren as a backup. They think that she can somehow pan out. I really, really doubt that. I think she's fundamentally unelectable when I look at the likability ratings and the head-to-heads of her versus Trump in the important swing states. I say, well, it's great that she'd get so many extra votes in California. Turnout in New York City would be very, very high. The problem is that once you hit 51% of the vote, anything else is superfluous. It doesn't matter in the Electoral College. Who fucking cares if you get a million more votes than your opponent or 2 million more in California? You still won the state. But it does matter if you win by a couple of dozen votes in Michigan. I think it'd be more than that. Trump is killing it in the matchups in the Rust Belt. Do you realize that, right? This is in state-to-state polling, it's a much more rosy picture than in the general. That's why they want to hold impeachment over their head. I don't even think, I maintain this is my belief. I do not believe Nancy Pelosi envisioned actually opening this kind of hearing where the Republicans would come in and be able to cross-examine witnesses. That's why they're using so many procedures and parliamentary asides, little loopholes and acts and regulatory things on all the Congress people there. This is why they are using them to shield the so-called whistleblower, who's not really, and others from being scrutinized too much. They're trying to lock things down as much as possible because every day that they have to hold these inquiries is damage to the Democrats. If this is their star witness on day one, the most important day, Schiff is fresh to the fight, all of these others, Swalwell was there and all of these, they're fresh for the fight, they're spoiling for a fight, this is the most optimistic they're going to get, and even parts of the legacy media that definitely favors impeachment, wants Trump gone, hates his guts, are saying that it was a dud. There couldn't be more damning right now. The impeachment inquiry. It doesn't lay bare Trump. It's just restating what we already have seen in the transcripts and what's been claimed about him. All it does is lay bare the fact that it doesn't matter because it's all a bunch of opinion and secondhand information. But I'll tell you this. The damage isn't too bad. Now, normally, if people were truly looking at this in an unbiased manner, the Democrats right now would have just suffered Armageddon, basically. They'd already be hemorrhaging voters. Most people have already made up their minds whether they support impeachment or not based on, basically, hearsay and opinion anyway. 90% of the country either does or does not support Donald Trump already and is part of a hardened bloc for or against him. There's not a lot of wiggle room. Those of us that are more independent and receptive to things, it's going to be hard to pay attention to day after day of this kind of testimony. It's just fucking boring. The problem is, who's analyzing that? For Soccer Mom America, you're getting legacy media spin. It's 90% against Trump. It has been the whole time. The coverage of Trump has been much more lopsided than in any past administration. Whether you're looking at Fox, whether you're looking at CNN, any of these groups, it is lopsided. It is mathematically impossible for this to be due to anything other than corporate bias. Likewise, people who get alternative media, maybe on this end of things, it's going to be much more positive towards Trump because it's obvious that the impeachment proceedings are a total farce. I saw nothing last night you'd think that it'd be going viral this morning if there was really a gotcha moment where it's like, wow, Trump really done it. Trump really broke the law. Trump really broke some international treaty. Wow, we've got something. It would be all over the place. It'd be widely reported. Instead, they're reporting a dozen different little sound bites from the impeachment proceedings, some of them benefiting Republicans. Simply because, and the Republicans are good at this, and I'm sure that Trump, in part, has told Nunes and these others this. Just have some flair, have some fireworks go on. Don't even worry so much about what you're saying to say it really loud and be really angry, because the press will report on it. Even if they report on it negatively, at least it's out there. It's a counterbalance to whatever the Democrats might say. Schiff looked uncomfortable through the whole day. Not that he usually doesn't. It's funny because he gets this like wide-eyed deer-in-the-headlights stare that usually is relegated to Elizabeth Warren getting challenged by black radio jockeys. It was just funny. I mean, it makes no difference. This isn't going to move the metric of support or against impeachment in the public's mind anyway, because most people have made up their mind. They're beyond help in one direction or the other. If they're like a MAGA hat wearer, you could face them with lock solid evidence that Trump actually did something impeachable and they wouldn't support it. They'd call it a coup. If they're a never Trumper, if they're a partisan Dem, you could say, look, here's evidence that everything said about him is wrong. By the way, the economy is still soaring. Ha ha ha. They would still want impeachment because they think that he's Orange Hitler. It's just the way that things are. It's a hyperpolarized climate, oddly enough, benefiting Trump thereof, because everything looks partisan regardless of whether it's not. That's about all. Peace out.